I am going to be talking about how I lost my income due to COVID-19, and I don't even qualify for unemployment. I was coughing so bad, I pulled a muscle over here in my chest. And I'm like, have you gotten tested?
Hey y'all, so before I get this video started, let me give a quick shout out. These were the first 3 comments in my last video. If you want to be featured in my next video, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and come show me some love when I drop a new video.
What's up, you guys? It's KeAmber Vaughn, aka CoachKe, coming back to you with another video. If you are new to my channel, welcome, and if you're not new, welcome back. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and also tap the bell so that you are notified of every new video that I post. So as you guys can tell by the title of this video, I am going to be talking about how I lost my income due to COVID-19, aka coronavirus, whichever one you want to call it. So if you are new to my channel, the majority of my videos have a subject of finance. It's typically budget videos. I make monthly budget videos as well as paycheck to paycheck videos. And in one of my videos, I did already kind of alert my supporters and subscribers and followers that I did lose my income and that I promised that I would make a video as to why, how, and all of that good stuff. Now, before I start this video, let me first preface it by saying this. I'm gonna put this disclaimer out. Please do not come in the comment section telling me how I ran away from my nursing duties and this is what I signed up for and all of this BS that I see online. It really frustrates me when people say that, because unless you know specifically why somebody chose the nursing profession or why they chose that particular job, you cannot tell them that this is what they signed up for. The only nurses that signed up for this are the ones who specifically took contracts to go work with COVID patients. Outside of that, none of us signed up for this. Okay? Okay, now that that is out of the way. So if you're new here, I am a psych nurse. I work in a long-term care facility, and I basically decided to do this because after I took 3 years off from nursing, I used to be in neuro. I had some med-surg overflow. I worked in ortho. Where else did I float to? And I floated to regular med-surg as well, but the majority of my first 14 to 16 months of nursing was in neuro, okay? So when I took 3.5 years off, I went into business, network marketing. I was a 6-figure earner. I helped start a network marketing company. And during that time that I was making a lot of money, I was very depressed because I still was not fulfilling my calling as a nurse. And as I got to be more and more frustrated with business and network marketing and stuff, because I just hate having to deal with so many people. I had large teams and everybody had my number and would call me and stuff. I was like, you know what? Let's just let those income sources dwindle because I don't want to do this anymore, and let me go back to nursing. When I decided to go back to nursing, I told myself I would go back into one of 3 areas, okay? The first one would be children's, because for me, working with a child that has a disease, even though it's very sad to see, it's one of those things where it's a lot easier to work with children because you know in the back of your mind that they didn't do whatever they deserve to have this disease. One of the things that frustrated me sometimes was working with adults who treated you like crap because they treated their body like crap. For instance, I remember I had this one guy who had COPD really bad, and he had to be suctioned a lot and stuff, and he used to literally cuss us out because he couldn't breathe. And it's like, dude, you told us that you smoked a pack of cigarettes a day for the last 50 years. Are you really cussing me out because you can't breathe? You know, you have a certain level of sympathy, but then it's like, come on now. With children, you don't have to worry about that. You know, you do have to worry about some of the parents, but outside of that, you know, children's was okay for me. The second place was ICU because I felt like ICU patients really needed the help that they needed when it came to being on those kind of units. Even though I'm a nurse, I don't agree with Western medicine 100%, and I'll just leave it at that. So ICU for me was okay. The third area was psych because I've had my own dealings with depression and suicidal ideation and different things like that. And also because there's a certain level of care that I feel like you can give that other people can't when it comes to psych. If you did not have psych issues or, you know, different situations, I feel like it's a lot harder for you to be sympathetic and empathetic to that patient population. And also, I just didn't want to be in medical anymore. I ended up getting MRSA in my eye before working on neuro. I guess one of our clients had it, I didn't know. And even though, you know, I washed my hands and hand sanitized, whatever, I must have still had something on my hands, rubbed my eye one day, had a side that literally would not go away. And my doctor told me, had you waited, you know, a couple of days longer, who knows how well you'd be able to see anymore. So yeah, I got into psych to get away from all of that stuff. So I got back into nursing about 3.5 years ago, and I got the job that I have now. I still have the job, but I voluntarily took myself off of the schedule, and I'm going to explain to you guys exactly why, how it's affecting me, and different things like that. So been working here for 3.5 years. At one point in time, I did work full-time hours, but for the most part, I've always worked 1 or 2 shifts a week, especially after I got out of debt in May of 2018. That is when I said, okay, no more. I'm working part-time and that's it. Pay my debt off, ain't got no bills no more. I'm good. Okay. So I've been working about 25 hours a week for at least about 1.5 years or so at this point. When I started working there, I went through an agency because one of the things I hate about corporate America is somebody controlling my schedule. I hate when I need a day off and they tell me, no, I ain't got time for that. So at least with the agency, I can make my own schedule and they always have openings. So before all of this stuff started to happen, to the extent that it's happening now, my last day of work was April 7th. About 2 weeks before that, I had already started telling my supervisors that, hey, listen, I'm just letting y'all know right now, as soon as one little case get up in here, I'm out of here, okay? I'm just telling you right now, I'm out. And there are various reasons. I'm gonna tell you guys why. The week before I stopped working, there were 2 incidents that already had me on edge, and I was like, it's probably about to be time pretty soon. So I had already told my mom, my aunt, my grandma, and a couple of my friends, like, you know, even though the likelihood of it coming in is very low as far as from the client perspective, you know, when you're working in a hospital, it's coming in because of the patients. Whereas in my facility, because I work in a long-term care facility where most of them don't really leave, the average length of stay is like 6.6 years, I think, or something like that. We have, I think, 180 clients, if I'm not mistaken. Most of them don't leave, okay? I've been there almost 4 years. Very few people have been discharged compared to the people that have stayed, and a lot of them who get discharged kind of come back. I work in a place where it's basically kind of like medium security prison. It's just not set up like a prison, but most of them are criminals. They've committed anything from murder to child molestation, rape, arson, anything you can think of. We do have a certain patient population who are not criminals, but their guardians just no longer could or wanted to take care of them. They were wards of the state, and because they've been in the system with the state from a psych perspective for so long, they're at our facility. Yeah. So like I said, most of them don't leave. Some of them kind of get like little passes out into the community where they can go out shopping, you know, with supervision, of course. Some of them will leave for like doctor's appointments, and a couple of them had jobs out in the community. Outside of that, they stayed there. So literally the only way for it to come in is from one of us. Now, they had already kind of shut down them being able to go to doctor's appointments and stuff like that. I think there was one client who was still leaving, and I think still leaves the facility because they need ECT treatments on their brain. And when they don't have it, you don't want to deal with them. Trust me. So that person, I'm pretty sure, still leaves the facility. Outside of that, nobody else leaves. So they had shut that down. They had already shut down visitors coming. At some point, I believe it was the week of, let me see. I think it was the week of maybe March 29th or March 27th. I think it was March 29th. I think it was that week that they had shut down the patients or clients even leaving their wards or cottages to go to leisure. Because for a while they were still allowing them to go to leisure, which means that they leave their ward or their cottage to go down to the gym. It's a bunch of them kind of all in one area. And so they had shut that down. And at some point in time, they even shut down them leaving their wards or cottages for meals. So it's literally like they have to stay where they are. I don't remember when they started taking temperatures and stuff of the staff members as we come in, but I do know that they did that at least a week before I stopped working, maybe 2. I think 2. I think 2 weeks before I stopped working. They started doing that. So they were taking our temperatures, asking us different questions like, do you have any like cold symptoms? Have you been around anybody with the symptoms? Anybody who like was diagnosed? Have you traveled outside of the country? Have you had a fever? And I'm pretty sure that was about it. At one point they asked us like if we had allergies, just so they would know like, you know, hey, we might be a little stuffy because of this, if the pollen count's high or whatever. So even though they were trying to do that, it's like most people don't start showing symptoms until 7 to 14 days after they've contracted it. So even though you're trying to be preventative, you're kind of not at the same time. So that was that. So yeah, I had started telling my supervisors, one case I'm out, because I know that we're not a medical facility. We don't have anything medical really there. If it's something minor, somebody might go to the little small clinic on the campus. But outside of that, like we ain't got nothing like that. Outside of a crash cart, you know, and an AED machine, you ain't really got nothing medical like that. To the point where outside of flu season, you can barely find masks. Of course, we're always staffed with gloves and stuff, or we always have that kind of equipment because we use gloves for a lot of different things. We don't really have a lot of gowns there, and we definitely don't have a lot of eye mask shields or eye shields or whatever. We definitely don't have that, okay? So for me, it's like, even though I got into nursing to help people, I never got my license to put my own health in jeopardy to help another person. And it's like, not to sound like as a bad thing or anything, but my health and my life is important. I'm not putting my life on the line for somebody else. I'm just not going to do that, especially not a stranger. That's just not me. Now, some people might do that, not me. So because I knew how bad this virus was getting, and you know, you have some people that have their little conspiracies and stuff. Let me tell you, I have a couple of old classmates who are RNs who are in New York right now. They've been on the front line for weeks. Okay, before y'all seen everything in the media as far as how bad it was, they had already told us how bad it was. Okay, so you can believe what you want to believe. But I knew that once it got there, it could really run rampant because each ward has anywhere from about 24 to 28 clients, sometimes up to 29. Each cottage, the cottages are like literally little houses, and they have 8 bedrooms, really small bedrooms, but they're very small. And there are times where like one person can get the common cold or like the flu or something, and it runs rampant through the whole ward or the whole, you know, cottage or something. So for me, it was like something like this where they don't even know exactly how it's transmitted. If, you know, if it is transmitted through breathing or whatever, you got doctors on each end of the spectrum. Everybody's saying something different. And for me, that made me way too uncomfortable, especially with the fact that knowing we didn't have enough PPE. There are hospitals that don't have enough PPE that deal with these kind of communicable diseases all the time. So a place like ours where we don't deal with communicable diseases like that, you really think I'm gonna put my health on the line? No. And it's one of those things where, sure, I'm a very healthy person, but at the end of the day, you're either gonna have a mild version or a severe version. I don't know which one I'm gonna get, so I'm just gonna leave it be and not put myself in harm's way. So let me tell you guys about how I knew that it was like this close to coming in. So the week before I stopped working, one of the nights that I worked with this guy who's in his mid-20s, and we were talking about how I think the following Monday they were supposed to start the stay-at-home order in St. Louis. And he was like, I'm still out in these streets. Can't nobody tell me to sit at home. And I'm just like, and the crazy thing was, I had told my mom and a couple of my friends and my grandma, when it comes to that facility, it's going to be because of some of these younger kids. And, you know, they only a couple of years younger than me, but maturity wise, I'm like, it's going to be some of these younger people who work here because a lot of them, this is their only like healthcare job, or maybe they've had like healthcare experience in a nursing home. But aside from those two like places, they haven't worked in hospitals and stuff like that where they've seen how bad people can get when they get certain diseases and disorders like this. So I felt like a lot of them wouldn't take it serious, and point proven. So yeah, so that was that. And then the following night when I had worked, when I got off in the morning, the nurse who relieved me, they had came in like later than they usually do, but they still weren't late. And so they apologized like, oh, you know, I had to call into CNO, the central nursing office. I had to call the supervisor and tell them that, you know, I almost didn't come in. And they were like, I was coughing so bad, I pulled a muscle over here in my chest. And I'm like, have you gotten tested? Now, but this time they had given us like regular kind of surgical masks that we wear or whatever. At this point, I believe they have N95 masks. That's what my coworker told me. I ain't been back, so I don't know. So I'm just sitting there like, have you got tested? And they were like, well, my doctor knows about it. They've known about it for a month. I'm like, but have you gotten tested though? So they proceed to tell me that they were on vacation from January something to February. And I think they were gone for like maybe 3 weeks. And the last couple of days of them being gone, they were in Vegas and then they came back. They were in Mexico, stayed in Vegas for a couple of days, and then came all the way back to St. Louis. And so they were like, you know, I still had about a week off from work. And when I came back into work, that second day I came into work, now they work days, so they get there about 6 o'clock in the morning. They were like, by 8 o'clock in the morning, like I could barely breathe. And I told them I had to go home. So I'm like, okay. So then they told me that they had to work that weekend. And that weekend, like at this particular job, like they work every other weekend. And when you try to call off on your weekend, it could be consequences. So they were like, well, you know, that weekend was my weekend. So I still made sure that I worked. But then when I got off that weekend, I took off that whole week knowing that I had the next weekend off. So I had a whole week off. And they were like, I spent the whole time in bed. I could barely breathe. Da, 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 da. I'm like, but did you get tested though? Like in my mind, I'm like, so you came to work. You was sick, you left. You came back a couple of days later because you was sick. And then you come back and you still sick. Did you get tested though? So they said that at some point in the week they were off, like after they were sick, they went to the doctor and the doctor basically told them that, hey, you know, at the time it wasn't a lot of kits available in the United States. Well, we don't have enough kits, and in order for us to get a kit to test you, we have to explain to the Atlanta CDC, I think they said, like why you're so important that we need a test kit for you. And I'm like, but did you get tested? So needless to say, they didn't get tested. So at that point, when I got off that morning, I didn't have to come back until the 7th. So I come back on the night of the 7th, and the first thing my supervisor tells me as I'm like checking out my keys to go to my assignment was, whatever you do, do not go into this particular cottage. You have to have an N95 mask. So that already kind of had me on edge, like, ooh, tonight might be my last night. Because a couple of weeks prior to me stopping my hours, they had already they took 2 of the cottages that hold 8 people each, and they wiped them out, put those clients across different wards and cottages, and basically kept those for quarantine purposes. They had one client that was in there that they had quarantined for a couple of days because that person had a fever. The fever ended up breaking. They didn't have any like lung symptoms or anything. And I don't know if they got tested or not, but I know they ended up not being quarantined anymore. So the night that I came in and my supervisor said, you can't go into this particular cottage, I'm like, oh, it must be something. Okay. So I get off that morning, and the girl the nurse who relieved me that morning was like, oh, I think I said something to her like, well, from my understanding, it's not here just yet, but when it comes here, I'm out. And she was like, oh, you didn't hear? I'm like, hear what? She was like, oh, they had to send so-and-so to the ER last night and they could barely breathe, da 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 da, and they tested positive at the hospital. I said, oh, really? And she was like, yeah. And the other person that's being quarantined in that cottage right now, they have community acquired pneumonia and they're showing symptoms as well. And both of these 2 clients come from the same ward. Now, here's the kicker. They come from the ward where that young mid-20 guy said he ain't staying home. Now, I ain't gonna say that he had it and he brought it in, but it's just a coincidence that he comes from that ward. And the sad thing is he works with the patient population that's a little bit older. So it kind of sucks that you have that mindset and you're working with clients who are possibly more susceptible to succumbing to this. So she told me that, and I'm like, oh. So I go to turn my keys back into the supervisor, and I see all of these people crowded outside of the supervisor's office, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? So as I'm getting past them, because all I'm trying to do is turn my keys in, get my timesheet signed, and I'm out. So as I go in, I see that they're testing people for N95 masks to see what size they need. Because if you did not know, if you're just going out and buying N95 masks, you could be wearing one that does not fit, okay? But yeah, so they're testing them, and the way that they test them, they put them in this little sleeve, they put the mask on, and they, you know, bend it down to where it's supposed to be, and then they shoot a whole bunch of like smells and stuff. It's like a powdery kind of substance, I guess you could say, and they shoot it up the sleeve, and if you can still smell it, then it's either not on tight enough or you don't have the right size. So I'm like, yeah, this is it. So I literally got home, and no, I think on my way home, I called the supervisor that I'm closest to, and I was just like, listen, yeah, I'm gonna need to be off the schedule immediately. And I had just signed up for like 2 more weeks, because I kind of signed up a week or 2 in advance. And so she was like, what's going on? And I said, listen, I told y'all when the first case got here, I'm out because I know we don't have the PPE, and I just don't feel comfortable because I know how reckless some of the people who work here are. And so I basically told her what the guy in the mid-20s told me or whatever. And she was like, yeah. And I told her, I said it was going to be people in his generation, okay, that would possibly either bring it in or spread it. And she was like, yeah, you know, a lot of them are probably carriers who don't have symptoms, and it really sucks that people can go so long without symptoms because it can spread so fast. And so she understood, and you know, she asked me like, is this going to start immediately? Are you coming in tonight, or is this going to start next week? And I was like, give me an hour. So after I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, my last check is going to be about $300 short, but is the extra $300 worth the potential of me going in for 12 hours and being exposed? No. So I ended up texting her, and I was like, hey, you know, after careful thinking, I really don't want to expose myself or possibly expose myself, so I'm just going to take myself off the schedule. And she was like, she understood. There was no kickback from her or anything. I called my agency, and I let my agency contact know, and she understood as well. You know, especially when I told, we ain't got the equipment to handle this. There's a picture that I think I saved on my phone that I'm going to post on here, and it was showing I think somebody getting like a regular like breathing treatment, like for somebody who might have like asthma or something like that, COPD. And when you see the aerosol like coming out from that, you will understand why even most PPE or personal protective equipment, if you didn't know what that stands for, you would see why most of that probably isn't even the most protective anyway, especially when some doctors are saying that if you have it on your hands or something, or it's in the air and it gets into your tear ducts, that you can get it. They don't know. You know, like I said, it's a lot of uncertainty, and that's what makes me like, you know, certain diseases and disorders, a lot of diseases and disorders, you know, how it's transmitted, how bad it can get, all of that stuff. Until doctors get on one accord, I'm good. And I'll probably still be good for a while. So yeah, as of right now, well, I'm not going to say as of right now, as of April 13th, there had been 8 confirmed staff members at my job who had it or have it, and 14 confirmed clients at my job. Okay. So that was almost a week ago. Ain't no telling how bad it is now. I do know one of my coworkers, she bought her one of those little, jumpsuits, I guess you could say, the white jumpsuits that some painters use. She bought that as a way to like kind of protect her clothes and stuff. And then I guess they now have N95 masks as well as the surgical mask. So I guess for her, she kind of like takes that off in the parking lot, puts it in her trunk where nothing else is. That way she doesn't have to worry about what's on her clothes and stuff because of the material of the jumpsuit. I don't know. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. So I don't have any income whatsoever at this point. I'm projecting to go about 2 to 3 months or more without an income. And I don't even qualify for unemployment, because when I went to the unemployment website, it said that if you are not working due to your fear of contracting COVID, but you still have the ability to work at that job, you can't file for unemployment. It's considered fraud. So it is what it is. The bright side of this is that I have way more time and energy to devote to day trading. Today, this morning, because I'm recording this the same day I'm putting it out, but this morning I made, I think it was $290. I took all of the trades demo because the market is finally kind of stabilizing itself. It's been all over the place for about a month or so now, maybe a little bit more. So I just needed to get back comfortable with trading that particular strategy live, because it's been all over the place as the market was everywhere. But yeah, I'm no longer too tired to be on the markets, because since I work at nighttime, when I get off in the morning, it's time to get on the charts. I always fall asleep before trades happen. I wake up, the trading session's over. Now I'm pissed, you know, so now I don't have to worry about that. So there is a bright side to it. And to be honest with you, I'm projecting that by the end of June, I will be making a full-time income from trading. So it probably won't be that bad of a thing, you know, and I've been needing a mental break from corporate America anyway. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. My check that I'll get paid this Wednesday, that you guys will see the paycheck to paycheck budget for, that check will be the 1 shift short. So it'll be about $300 or so, because I get paid about $360, give or take. No, it's about $375 per shift. But after taxes is like $290 or something. I get taxed like $600 and almost $700 a month working part-time. It's trash. But anyway, so yeah, it'll be a little bit short, but we're gonna work with it. I'm still gonna be doing budget videos. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna show you guys how you can still manage what savings that you have, especially if you've been saving like I've been telling y'all to, because nobody told y'all to do that $1,000 and that's it. I ain't tell y'all to do that. You watch my channel, I ain't tell you to do that. But yeah, so you guys will still see me do budget videos and all of that stuff. Nothing is going to change. I'm still tracking my expenses and everything. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, even though this video is about not having income anymore. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions or commentary that makes sense, leave it down in the comment section. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.